Now, how long did you work at the lottery before you realized that there was some fishy stuff going on with Eddie Tipton? And this is when we're going to get into the
Sure.
big thing, the big bust here. What was your first thing that kind of said, something's weird going on here?
I was only there about a year and a half,
Oh, wow.
and we get jackpots all the time. And just happened that I got a call New Year's Eve. Hey, we had a jackpot winner yesterday. Okay, no big deal, but nobody came in to claim it. And 2 or 3 months later, no one came in and claim it. You have a year in Iowa to claim the jackpots.
What's the average
Um,
time that people usually come in to get it?
they usually don't come in right away because if on a big jackpot, this was a $10 million cash, 16 million annuitized.
Wow.
You want to talk to your lawyer, talk to your accountant, that sort of thing. But when it got to be 3 or 4 months, we figured somebody threw it in the trash or dog ate it. You get all these excuses. So we kept barking, and at 6 months, we started getting the fraudulent questions. Oh, I think my husband bought it, and the clerk stole it. We got a lot of unhired lawyers, but we had the videotape of the exchange and the audio of the exchange, so we pretty much knew that it was a pretty good sized guy that had a little bit of a southern drawl. But so when we had a woman call and say, I bought the ticket, we'd say, okay, thank you very much. Or if we had somebody say, hey, I bought it, and we could say, was it a quick pick or was it an easy play where you let the computer pick it? Or did you do it manually? They'd tell us one way, we knew what it was. I mean, the lottery tickets are really, really secure. Well, we even had one lady call and say, hey, my husband's an organized crime. He's a truck driver. I haven't seen him for 3 months. I know he's got it. So if they come in, check it out because it's an organized guy.
She turned in her husband.
Yeah, she turned. I mean, you get the craziest calls.
Oh, yeah.
So I think it was 11 months. We got a call from a lawyer in Canada, and he's back to having a good company culture. We trained our folks that if you see something doesn't feel right, say something. And the front desk said this guy sounds like he had the right serial number and things that no one else could know. And so this sounds pretty particular. So they sent it up to our public relations security folks, and they started asking questions. And the guy said, I bought the ticket. Well, what were you wearing? They asked, and they said, well, it was a tweed pants or tweed coat, and I'm 68 and I'm kind of frail. And they said, ding, ding, ding. And our CIO said, wait a minute, that doesn't sound like the person we have on tape. And this lawyer didn't even hear that. He just said, well, it was me. I'm buying it. I'm going to send you the ticket. You send me the money. Well,
Mm.
sounds a little fishy. So we basically called the DCI and the attorney general's office, said if he comes in, let's arrest him. Well, he didn't show up. Another guy showed up and said an hour and 40 minutes before the ticket was to expire, and sent it through two more lawyers that they hired in Des Moines, who was going to get $500,000, along with the guy in New York was going to get $500,000. They find out later. Said, I want our money. And we said, we got to tell us who bought it. And they said, no, we're not going to. What? Ding, ding, ding. Well, we argued back and forth, and all of a sudden they just said, okay, we don't want it. Our client doesn't want the publicity. You got to be kidding. I don't think Warren Buffett would turn down 16.5 million bucks.
Yeah. And can you remain anonymous in Iowa or no?
Good point. The crazy part is there are 6 states that you can claim tickets for lotteries anonymously. If you'd have bought that in those states, they'd have been able to cash it on the spot, but we wouldn't allow it. So we went back and forth. We started an investigation, took us 3 years, and ultimately found out that he was working for an organization, which was a vendor organization, the company that when we talk about sending money in for Powerball and the others, that same company, he was the security director, and he was the person that designed the computer. Powerball, as you know, is drawn by balls, so it's got a lot of different security features that way. This was drawn by a computer. He wrote the code, he packaged the code, and then he maintained the computers. And we ultimately busted him, his brother, and his best friend, all three who had been claiming jackpot since 2005.
Oh.
And the ticket itself started the investigation. Once we got to his name and his best buddy's name and his brother's name, it was just a little Iowa, story. Everybody was saying across the nation, all the other lotteries saying, just be quiet, because this is a $80 billion industry. If you get this wrong, people won't trust the lottery. They won't buy. You're gambling with our $80 billion across the U.S. So it was a little nerve wracking and pretty crazy. But what really broke it nationally was the guy named Eddie Tipton went to trial on his first trial, and he was convicted of He must have bought the ticket. We couldn't figure out the smoking gun and how he did it, but he must have bought it. And if he bought it, it was his best friend that won. He must have, and the jury bought it, and so they found him guilty. So they brought in his brother to testify. Now, here's the craziest thing you ever heard, because